Hello and welcome back. This is MC1 Gamer. I missed a few of the War Scrolls in the first run for the FAQs from Age of Sigmar, so I wanted to go back and just pick up the ones that I had not gotten a chance to do. I know that a lot of people are going to be doing this as well, and I'm not going to have a chance to join many of them, so I wanted to go and make sure that I had my take on them and just go throw it out there to anybody that may have not seen them or just wanted to have a dialogue about them. In any case, the ones that I had missed, the first one is about attacking. What happens if I have two of the same weapon? Do I double the number of attacks made by the weapon? And again, it's one of those that I don't understand why people don't understand the basics of what's in the rules. I'm going to go try and zoom in a little bit here. If the model is armed with identical weapons, they do not double the number of attacks. Instead, they usually get an extra ability instead. So what they're trying to say here is that it's in the description. You don't gain something inherently because you have two weapons. It'll tell you if there's any other enhancement. If there isn't, then it's what's in the profile. So just default to that and stop trying to make up new stuff. Do I have to choose targets for all the attacks made by a unit before I roll? Yes, you do have to choose. You have to declare what you're attacking with how many of those attacks. If a weapon has an attack characteristic of more than one, can I split its attacks amongst different target units? Yes. Which, again, this is something that they've already covered and is indicated that you can declare part of your attack capabilities to go to different targets. Can you just don't try to roll one die at a time, though? Okay, that's foul. Next, could you please clear up the if a weapon has an attack characteristic of more than one, can I split attacks amongst different target units? Yes, we know that. Okay, good. Could you please clear up the intention behind allocating damage? Are we intended to allocate damage dealt to a unit, to a single model until it's dead, and then move on to another target, or may we pick a different target for each round of attacks, or even each weapon attack? And the answer is, as I discussed in the first video, you allocate your wounds to a model until it is dead, including damage from subsequent attacks. The intention is that a unit will only ever have one wounded model at any one time. So this is one that I guess people were trying to, again, rules lawyer this and try to change how that you could try to extend the life of multi-wound units, and it wasn't the case. I think it was pretty clear in the way it was written, but it's nice to have a more clarity. If a mob of 20 models attacks, but only 5 are within model range, do you only roll for those 5 whose weapons are in range? Yes, I don't understand why this would be a question either. If the weapons have ranges for a reason, so only the ones that are in range should really be able to attack. All right, let's continue on. Is it possible for modifiers to make a hit, wound, or roll automatically successful? For instance, a save roll of 3 with a modifier +2. Yes, they say yes. They are subscribing to the idea that you can stack defenses, like i.e. Mystic Shields, and make, except for things like mortal wounds, make saves go to a 1+, in which case they automatically are successful. And again, that's one thing that I know a lot of people are going to comp out, and there's nothing wrong with that. One's always failing can be a thing. On the other hand, I could see the other way going the other way, where don't allow it, but look how many resources you have to allocate that could be doing so much more just to get that extra 1 modifier or 2 modifier. To not even guarantee, yes, it's an automatic save, but mortal wounds are very common in this game, so it's a lot of effort for very situational, very limited benefit. So maybe that's why they're allowing it. With War Machines and crew, how should you allocate wounds? And they have confirmed that War Machines and his crew are 2 separate units. They're all under 1 War Scroll, but they're considered separate units for targeting, which I guess makes sense. Then next, if a model has several characters on a single base with different characteristics that grant different types of attacks, do I have to choose which weapon I use, or can I attack with all listed attacks? And you can attack with all that's on the profile. So if you have a lance and any weapon on the profile, unless it says that you only have one or the other as an option, then you get to use both. So that's just part of the profile. Yes, you get all the attacks listed unless it says otherwise. If you have the same save versus suffered wounds and mortal wounds, do you make those saves after your normal save? Okay, these saves are taken when the damage is inflicted after all the attacks by the attacking unit have been carried out. Now, this is a little vague, but what they're trying to say here is that you roll all your attacks, and then you roll which attacks are wounding attacks. How many wounds have been caused? the damage that's allocated is after the save, so the multiplier. But when it's asking you when you roll the save, and it's between this one and the previous one, it seems to be very clear that you roll. The order is roll to hit, roll to wound, roll your saves, then roll your modifier. So if you're getting die 3 attacks, die 3 wounds per attack that you make, it's per attack then wound that you make. You make your saves, and then any saves that are failed, then you get the multiplier. That's the way I'm looking at it. That's the way I'm reading it. And okay, does a unit with a save of line get a save for being in cover from an ability that gives +1? And they say no. And it does make that clear. At least that's the idea that I got from it. And most people declare that it's basically you get no save. You have nothing to modify. When a model unit makes a save to ignore a wound, do you make it before or after the wound multiplier? Oh, and here's something different. This is kind of strange. Make it after the multiplier. That's very interesting. Okay, so I'm wondering if they're talking about yeah, so it looks like you get a save for each individual wound count. So if you're doing that seems to be contradictory, guys. I'd love to hear what people's take is on that. It seems to be what they're saying is that you save, you make a save, and then you roll the multiplier, and that's how many wound saves you have to make. So I guess if this is going to be open to some analysis post, and again, let's discuss it further. It seems what they're saying with this one now is that you make your attacks, you roll the number of wounds, you roll the multiplier, and then you get saves for each one. That's contradictory. That seems to contradict the previous one. Let me know what you guys think. When a model on a mount is killed, does the whole model die, or can the rider, if you have a model for it, still be used? Of course not. It's slain. Yeah, that's silly. Battle shock phase. The result of a battle shock test results in a number that is higher than the number of the models I have left. And if an ability that allows me to roll a dice to prevent models fleeing, for example, the Gray Seer's command ability, should I roll the number of dice equal to the battle shock test difference or the number of models I have left? And it says, follow the instructions for the ability in the question exactly as written. For example, in the case of underlings will not flee, must fight rule, you can roll a dice for each model that flees. Okay, so you calculate how many you're fleeing, not for the overall total distance. It's the number that actually flees when you complete the battle shock test and determine how many are fleeing, not the potential that you could have done if there were more guys there. All right. This is going to require some zooming in. Chaos. Chouse. Arcane has 2 attacks with 1-inch range. This is the one with the base to base. I talked about it in the previous video. Don't stack bases, guys. Figure something else out. It's just foul. Don't do it. I know what they're saying. They're saying bases don't matter, and feel free to go and stack them. Don't do it. If I have a decorated base, you're not putting your bases on top of mine, and I'm not going to do it to you. And anybody who does it, I'm just not going to play with, and I don't think you should either. Okay. Arcane can allow other Chaos units to use their command abilities. Yeah, and they say yes, you can. So the answer is yes. It's very, very clear. He lets them use their command abilities, so let them use it. Does a hero or single model count as a unit to fulfill the requirement to have 8 units for a blood-marked warband? They say yes. Very good. Can I take Arcane and the Varangard as part of the blood-marked warband? You can take Arcane, but you cannot take the Varangard. Does the Chaos Hell Cannon do die 6 mortal wounds per hit, or just 1 die 6 total? And what their clarification is that each of the Hell Cannon, each attack with its Doomfire attack that hits and wounds will deal die 6 damage. So, again, I'm conflicted on how that works with the saves. It doesn't seem to clear it up. It seems like they contradict themselves. Again, nothing new. How many spells can a Mighty Lord of Khorne attempt to unbind in a turn? And I love this one. He can unbind all spells that are cast within his range. So all spells within range of the Mighty Lord of Khorne getting a chance to be unbound. Look at that. There's no number. That's pretty powerful. Fate Weaver's War Scroll says that you can change the result of any dice roll to whatever you want. So if you roll 35 dice, can you change it to 35 sixes? What are these people writing? These questions are driving me crazy. Yes, you get one one die that you can choose to change. Come on. Oh, my God. The Herald of Seneshalon Seeker Chariot has 1 fewer wound than the regular Seeker Chariot, which seems to be weird, especially since considering the Herald of Seneshalon Exalted Seeker Chariot has the same number of wounds as the regular Exalted Seeker Chariot. Is this intended? No, this has been corrected. So it got corrected in the Grand Alliance and in the app, so that invalidates the question. Is it correct that Skaven slaves have 2 attacks with rusty blades? Yes, it is. For Skaven, if I use a Gutflyer Scorch Engine Coven, can I use the Warp Grinder Weapon Team's Tunnel Sculptor's ability and bring an additional unit, for example, Storm Vermin, along? The answer is no. No to you Skaven players. You cannot do that. On the Plague Monk's War Scroll, the option is given for models to be icon bearers. And I'm just going to go down to the bottom because I know what this is. You may take multiple standards and instruments in a unit, all right, if the War Scroll allows it. And many do. Most do. So you can have many guys, and it doesn't do anything but give you redundancy for the standards, and so that you don't have to worry about when you where they are in the unit. They're encouraging you to take more of these standards, and you can have everybody be a standard bearer if you wanted. In other words, so there's no loss there. Just more stuff you have to convert. If a model heals wounds, does it count as having taken those wounds for the purposes of making its attacks and abilities weaker? No, use the line that corresponds to the monster's current number of wounds, so a monster will get better if it can heal wounds. Yeah, I don't understand why. All right, God, I keep saying that I'm broken record. I'm just going to move on. Yeah, it's whatever it currently is. Okay. That, in other words, you can heal it from some other means. It'll get better. It'll go to whatever that the current existing, at that point in time, what the profile says. Since we measure from model to model and base to base, does pivoting count as moving? And yes, pivoting counts towards your movement. All right. This is when I got wrong. I didn't think that was the case because facing wasn't an issue. So as long as nothing on the model moved further, then it shouldn't have been the case. But as was pointed out to me by some viewers early on, they felt pivoting was a thing. And I guess pivoting is a thing. So as long as no part of the model moves further than its moving characteristic, then it's legal. Okay, so I stand corrected. A model cannot move through scenery, but can move across it or climb. For instance, direct sport chariots allowed to climb a fortress wall or move down from a Witch Fate Tower or fortified mansion? For simplicity and ease of play, the core rules say that any model can climb any piece of scenery. If you wish, you can say that the models are not only allowed to move to places they could reach in real life, they are only allowed to move to places they can reach in real life. But you will need to apply a certain amount of common sense and discretion to make such a rule work well. So yes, it's a case-by-case basis. If it's logical, they can move there. And it's up to you and your opponent to decide if that's the case. I'm sure most people will establish that unless you can fly, you need to be able to get there. Is it possible to make a unit model run if it's retreating and or flying? Yes, that's great because a lot of people are questioning that. I felt that you could run. I'm glad to see that's cleared up. Some scenery allows you to garrison them. Most say that you can be garrisoned if the unit begins its movement phase within 6 inches. Does that mean that units that have a move characteristic of less than 6 inches can still garrison them? The answer is yes. It's a product of the terrain, not of your movement. Are you allowed to move a unit through another friendly unit that's not engaged in combat? What they're basically saying is you can move through the gaps in between models if you can fit. You're not moving a dragon in between the rank and file that's 1 inches apart of regular models. It's not going to happen unless you fly. And that's what they say as well. You have to fly. Otherwise, if there's enough room for you to move through, you can move through. Oh, order again is very, very, all right, let's get closer. All right, order. Can you explain healing ability of the Lord Celestant? Let's get closer here. If the Lord Celestant targets a Stormcast Eternal unit with his Warding Lantern, each save roll of 7 or more made by that unit until the next hero phase immediately heals 1 wound on 1 model and does so on a +1 modifier to its save rolls, with a +1 modifier to its save rolls. If you're making several attacks at the same time, including all rolls to hit and save rolls simultaneously, this means you must first heal wounds for saves of 7 or more, and then apply the damage inflicted by attacks that were not saved. That makes sense. All right, the Thunderstrike Brotherhood War Scroll. Can only 1 unit be placed in the Celestial Realm? And they say as many as you want to deploy in the Thunderstrike Brotherhood. Good on you guys. Does the Stormcast Eternal Knight as Eros ability, Leader of the Way, mean that whole units has to be within 5 inches of the model? And then it says, no, the unit must be within 5 inches. So yeah, it's not the whole unit, it's the unit. And unless it said specifically every model in the unit, then it's just that the unit effectively is within range. Things like, you have to be, everybody in the unit has to be on, within on a terrain piece, not fully within, but on, touching a terrain piece, then they can get the cover benefit. That's the kind of thing. Unless it says everybody in the unit, you only have to have 1 guy within the unit within range of that or something like that to qualify. On the War Scroll for the Lord Celestin on Dracoth, there isn't any description about the shield he carries. Yeah, they've updated that. So yes, he does carry the Thunder Shield. As a proud owner of a Star Drake, I have a question. For example, a Bloodthirster was in combat with a unit of Paladins, and they knock it down to 4 wounds remaining, and then a Star Drake piles in. They want to know if the Cavernous Jaws will work if you could knock a Bloodthirster down below the threshold to be able to work. And what they're saying is that it's the War Scroll characteristic, not the current state of the wounds. So you can't knock somebody down and then use the ability. It is what the profile says the wounds are, which is indicative of how powerful, big, and and whatnot. So you have to have a 5 or under, basically a standard hero type character, or individual model, for instance, that's no more than 5 wounds each. Seraphon units, specifically Pterodon riders and Reprodactyls, does the swooping dive mean that the flying high up and hence unreachable by melee attacks unless they swoop down to the ground? No. It means you must measure the range to and from the model at the position it occupies on top of its flying stand, unless it makes the swooping dive, in which case you measure the range to and from the model as if it were on the ground. So yeah, you can't keep these guys up indefinitely, and then therefore they cannot be targeted. So that flying high does not make them immune. So you can't do like auto wins by having these fly high guys just sit around and not engage. They're not suddenly immune, which is interesting. That's interesting. But they are hard to reach, because if you're flying, you're going to see a lot of people modeling this for advantage now, having these huge flying stands now. All right, the Saurus Old Blood on Carnosaur is the only Saurus that cannot bite. And it says he is just too old to jump down from the Carnosaur to bite people. He's called the Old Blood for a reason. All right, I like that they're a little tongue-in-cheek in that answer. All right, if the Wood Elf Eternal Guard unit uses the Fortress of Bows ability, does it lose the effect of this ability if it makes a pile and move toward the during the combat phase? If the Eternal Guard uses that ability, they cannot make any kind of move until the next hero phase. This includes pile-in. Wow, okay, that clarifies a lot. Can Branch Wraith summon Dryads without any Sylvaneth Wildwoods? And the answer is no, because it says specifically in there that they have to be within a certain range or within a Sylvaneth Wildwood. So yeah, this is why I hate the idea that some comps make you pay for these Wildwoods. If you get them as part of like the Guardians of the Deep Wood, you should just get them. It's part of that that battalion. That's why you get them. Otherwise, this is an ability that does not exist. And I like the idea that if it doesn't include, it's not included in a battalion, that you then have to then pay for it in some way with War Scroll allotments if you're doing, scroll, choices, limited numbers and whatnot. Then, if you want to put down a piece of terrain that's not part of a battalion, then I think it's okay to have that, because otherwise, you're just deciding to put terrain down that's to your best advantage. But yes, I agree with that. I like how you now charge and pile and moves work across. How does they work across stakes used by Batonia peasant bowmen? Yeah, they can charge across that, but they do it at their peril. In other words, there is a risk. Something happens. But yeah, they can charge right across it. And I don't know if I like the idea of having to balance the units on top of those stakes, but hey, that's what you have to do. Can an Empire Master Engineer give his bonus to multiple war machines during the same phase, provided that they are within 1 inch of him? The answer is yes. I thought we know that. Okay. I have a human cannon. Must I play it as an Empire cannon, or can I play it as an Ironwalled Arsenal cannon? They say no. It's different. It's an Empire cannon. The Ironwalled Arsenal uses the Duarden crew. So you'd have to get Duarden crew, and you can then proxy. That's not that hard. But yeah, it'd have to be a Duarden or otherwise dwarf cannon. If I have 2 Bloodrack Shrines, would I roll twice for each model in the targeted unit for Aura of Augury? Would I roll for both Bloodrack Stairs simultaneously? Yes to both questions, so yes, you do. All right, interesting. In the shooting phase, can I shoot into combat or invisible units in the forest where the target is clearly visible to my unit? Yes, it says that in the original rules. Yes, you can. You shoot at anything within range. The rule allows units to use missile weapons even if the attacking unit is in melee combat. Is that correct? Yes. All right, you can use it. It has a range. It's not like 8th edition. Would an enemy unit of orcs standing behind a unit of goblins be visible to a unit of high elf archers? What about a cavalry unit behind regular footmen? The answer is yes. You go down to the table edge, you take a look, you see it. It's true line of sight. I don't like true line of sight, but in this kind of a game, in a skirmish game, I think it makes sense. The rules. Is an FA crew required when you can discuss things with your opponent before a game? Yeah, let's read this. This is the caveat to everything. Players should always feel free to discuss rules before a game and change things as they see fit if they want to do so. Whatever the printed rules and FAQs may say, the rules and FAQs simply provide a default setting for your games. So guys, and they have a little smiley face there. What they're trying to say is play the way you want. Like we've been saying, like a lot of us have been discussing, just play the way you want. These are the default rules. And if you want to play to to default if you're playing casual games, but you want to change one thing, go ahead, but you got to agree with it. So most of the time, people are going to default to the default rules. If you do have a rule that you all agree upon, or if your club agrees upon, or if the TO is making an event and he has a comp that he's changing for that event, then that's going to be the case, and then you have a choice on whether or not you want to do that. And you could argue all you want, but it's a choice on whether or not you want to adapt some of these rules. They're inviting you to, if you want to. So these are the standardized rules, and then there is your choice on what to do. And there's no rule police that's going to come and force you to do it this way. All right? Your fun isn't wrong, okay? I keep saying it. Is there any kind of facing in Age of Sigmar? No, there's no facing. You can shoot fire out of your dragon's ass, okay? You can get that, guys? There's no facing. You could shoot anywhere within range of the model, or if you're doing base to base. Are rerolls allowed based on the original dice roll or the final dice roll? Rerolls happen before modifiers to the roll, if any are applied. All right, yeah, there's no rerolls on rerolls, and there's no rerolls on final dice roll. You get one reroll, guys. One reroll. You roll your dice. If you get a reroll based on what the conditions are, you get a reroll for those dice, and then that's it. Moving on. Oh my God, there's another page that I'm blinded by. All right, let's see. I can't see this well because of the font, but I'll do my best here, guys. What happens if I have two of the same weapon? Do I double the number of attacks? No, you don't. And I already went through this. I think I did. Did I? Yep, I did. So there it is. There's part 2 for the ones that I had missed in the first go around. So hope that helps. And feel free to go and discuss amongst yourselves. And as I said, change it as you wish, because there is no wrong. Have a great day, everybody.